Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, now I'm surrounded by monsters.
Let's see, where were we?
Before Skype so rudely interrupted.
Yeah, one thing that I just noticed in kind of getting back to where we were is that you just picked up a leather shield. I don't know if you've looked at that particular shield in the info section.
I don't think so.
That shield it's pretty weak, but it has two interesting properties that make it a pretty nice thing to have. One is that it can't be corroded.
Okay.
Which is
like you mean by like a rust trap or something?
By rust trap, there's a monster type that'll corrode your stuff. So it's a nice thing to be able to have to swap on. The other thing though is that it actually this took me forever to figure out, even though I had an NPC tell me, but it cuts your metabolism in half when it's equipped.
Oh, yeah, see, that's something that people have been saying in, like, my comments and in the forum thread, is that shields affect your hunger rate. That's something I probably never would have
learned. There's only two shields that do that. The leather shield which cuts in half, and the heavy shield which doubles it.
Which is why I starved to death in that one amazing video.
Yeah, my ideal shield situation is to just have.
What was the deal with that guy anyway? The guy who's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw a rice ball at you if you get hungry, and then he didn't. What was his deal?
I don't know. I think that he is supposed to do things for you if you're like low on health. He'll throw you a healing herb or something like that. But I don't actually know what his deal is. That was
so soul crushing. Cause I'm like, oh, I'm gonna learn something new about this game, and then no, the old man just watched me starve to death, just like real life.
Oh, that guy's I'm used to that guy being. I'm used to a guy who talks about being blinded, but he's usually a little girl. If you throw a vision herb at him, he should give you a reward.
I think that's what's about to happen here. If I'm done screwing around in the menu or something.
You can actually throw things even when they're inside pots.
Yeah,
so you don't...
I don't think I had learned that just yet. Am I going to go back and talk to him? I don't know. And I've been trying to figure out what bracers and things do by just equipping them and then noting any particular changes in behavior.
Yeah, there are a few that have some pretty subtle effects. There's one that Oh, well, this guy's about to tell us what your bracers are. So there's one bracer, for instance, that'll increase your experience by 1 every time you take a step.
Oh, wow.
There's another... that one prevents your stuff from being cursed. There's another one that prevents your stuff from getting corroded.
Yeah, the cursed one, the, what's it called? The blessing bracer, I think, in this version. Mm-hmm. I found that a couple of times. I think my favorite bracer so far has been the radar bracer that shows you the location of all the items on the map.
That one's probably the best bracer in the game.
And it was the penetration bracer that got me into trouble all those videos ago when I tried to break that pot.
Yeah, there's an NPC who warns you about that.
Oh, I forget if I found that NPC or not, but...
I don't think you had.
That's the kind of... that situation made no sense to me when it happened, because I just had this bracer equipped, and I guess threw a pot through a wall. That was no fun.
But you were right in that you need to... that most pots, you need to throw them at the wall to get stuff out of them.
I think that's a really steep learning curve for me, is trying to figure out how to use pots correctly, because a lot of the pots I don't even know what they do.
I guess I could explain the more important ones if you want.
Well, there's one coming up later in the video. I still have no idea what it does. It just says the word back 8 times in the pot. That's all it does. And I keep using it and nothing happens.
So there are were you at full health when you used it?
I might have been, but I don't know.
Because there's that I know of 3 pots that do that, and each one of them is not one that you put stuff in, it's something that you just trigger for an effect. So one of them is the, I think it's probably called the Toto pot in this version.
I have a Toto pot. Well, there's actually a phase problem with a Toto pot that I think we'll see in the later on.
Oh, okay. So you know about that.
So I learned that one. That one made sense now.
There's one that's the monster pot that just surrounds you with monsters when you press it. I don't think that one appears outside of the bonus dungeons, though. So
I hope not, because that sounds like a really good way to die.
Yeah. And the third one is, I think it's just called the back pot in this version.
The back pot? Well, that would explain why it says back in the pot over and over.
Yeah, in the DS version it's called the chiropractic jar. If you press that one, it will restore you to full health and remove all poisoned strength loss.
Oh. Well, yeah, that's extremely useful. I must have just been at full health and when I tried to use it.
It's one of those things where if you don't have room in your inventory for it, you make room in your inventory for it.
Right. Okay, well that makes a little more sense now. But yeah, this is actually the second or third time that I've had this little NPC guy follow me around, and that's one of the reasons I made it so far in the previous session was because I had him kind of killing all the monsters for me.
Have you worked out what happens with what the situation is with the blinder?
Yeah, I had her follow me around for a little while too last session. I took her down like the mines and stuff.
Yeah. So some runs you get both of them following you, and that's pretty good.
But see, that would be excellent. Because
it's excellent until a tank blows up both of them and promotes.
Oh well, yeah, that would be awful. That's when you just start to cry.
The good thing though is that they're both durable enough that unlike with the little girl, they usually don't die immediately when a tank starts attacking.
I don't know. The little girl can soak up a few hits.
I think she's still a little bit more fragile than the others.
But if I had some it would be nice to have some indication how much life your little sidekicks had left, but that's probably too much to ask.
You can actually talk to them and get a little bit of an indication.
See, I thought of that, because you can do that NetHack with like a stethoscope sometimes. So, but that's one of the things that I thought of, but it didn't occur to me as I was playing the game.
Yeah, if you talk to one of your allies and you get a message that's something like, "I can't go on," or something similarly pessimistic, that means they're near death.
So I don't know why that didn't occur to me. Well, it's because I don't practice good pet management when I'm playing NetHack. Like, I just don't care. So,
I usually don't care either.
It depends on what class I'm playing.
Like, if you're playing a healer, you kind of want to keep your pets alive because you don't really have any because you're good at it and you don't really have any good offensive options.
Yeah, well, I typically keep my dog or cat or whatever around until I find a good weapon. Like, it was really crucial to my priest ascension that I did. I really had to have that dog tanking everything for the first 9 floors or so.
Priest is still better than healer in terms of offense, I think.
Well, don't healers start with stone to flesh?
They start with stone to flesh. That mostly just serves as a source of unlimited food.
Yeah, but you can also make meatballs, which you could use to train pets.
Yeah.
So
that's mostly useful for stealing.
Exactly, but it's still a huge advantage over what I was doing with a healer. It's like you can't train, because you find maybe 3 tripe rations in the entire dungeon.
And you want to keep one of them on hand because it makes your pet follow you more closely.
But yeah, if I get to like the mines or something and I find a good weapon and I don't have a magic whistle, I just abandon the pet. Screw them, I don't need them.
Yeah, I usually don't care unless I've polymorphed the pet into something good.
I think this was a new event. This is the first time I saw people lined up outside the restaurant.
Yeah, the restaurant subquest is probably the longest and most involved of the subquests in the game.
Oh, that's what I like to hear.
The reward is ultimately fairly minor, in that you basically can... Well, ultimately the reward is that you can go to the restaurant whenever you want and get your nutrition refilled when you're at this town.
Yeah, that does sound kind of minor.
Well, it refills your nutrition and also gives you some other boost. Like you might get +1 strength, or you might get I don't know. Your weapon might get corrode proofed or something like that.
See, and it took me several runs before I realized there were little like metagamey benefits you could build up. So everybody's asking, why did you keep ignoring the blinding woman? And I'm like, because she's blinding me. It didn't occur to me that between runs something would happen with her. It's like, I'm not going to put my hand on a hot stove the 5th time in a row.
Yeah, I think part of the problem was that you lost some of the gameplay originally, because it's like normally when you're playing this, the first time you talk to her, you're just going to say, "Oh, okay, I'll play along," and then the second time you do it again to see if something different happens, and then after that she follows you around.
Yeah. But all my roguelike training, though, again, it comes from NetHack, and in NetHack, it's like if you do something, and something bad happens, that's a pretty strong indication that you don't do that thing.
Yeah.
It's like NetHack, there are things you don't do because something bad might happen. It's like you would never just put on an unidentified bracelet in NetHack. You would never do that.
Well, if you knew it was uncursed, you might.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. How do you know? You can't know it's uncursed when you first pick it up.
You can know it's uncursed if you have a pet, or if there's an altar nearby.
Or if you're playing a priest, I guess.
Oh yeah, if you're playing a priest.
That was the biggest draw to playing a priest. That was amazing. And this guy pisses me off. I don't know what this guy's deal is.
I don't remember how to resolve this subquest. I think you just keep on visiting him every time until he just stops throwing pots at the wall.
And he has like a little pot store, but he says it's not open yet. So I'm guessing eventually he's going to open a pot store and I can buy pots from him.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
And that would be absolutely amazing.
And when that subquest I think that one just kind of resolves itself eventually. But what eventually happens is he also devises a new type of pot. It's called the melding jar in the DS version. I don't know what it's called here. But what happens is you can put two things in the pot and their properties will be combined. So for instance, if you put a hide shield or a leather shield in and a heavy shield in, the heavy shield will take on the corrode proof and metabolism lowering properties of the leather shield.
Yeah, that sounds extremely useful. Because that's one of the things I was trying to do, is build up a cache of equipment in my warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
But after you leave this town, I have not seen any little messenger guys.
There's another warehouse in the next town that you unlock if you manage to get the girl there alive.
Well, the problem is, like, I keep starting the game over from the first town. So it's like if I get a good sword past this town, I don't have a way to send it home without one of those magic pots.
Yeah. For what it's worth, that's another one of the differences between this version and the DS version. It seems like I almost never found a storehouse jar in the DS version.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty rare. I'm not guaranteed to get one over the course of a run.
Yeah, by no means would I think you're guaranteed to get one. But in the DS version, it was like once in a blue moon I might find one.
I'm hearing Final Fantasy XI music, which means we must be through the 7 songs you picked already.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked any 11 songs. I've never played 11.
Oh. Well, the temptation was very strong, so you sent me this PM, like, oh yeah, here's 7 songs, just whatever, pick the rest. And the temptation was really strong to just like put an entire Final Fantasy soundtrack in there. Because it's easy and I have them all and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of had to consciously, I tried to make a conscious effort to not just pick all from the same game.
But it did kind of give me a nice theme to work with, though.
Yeah.
So I kind of tried to stick, except for that Binding of Isaac song. I don't know what that was doing in there. That didn't make a lot of sense.
I wanted to include something from a roguelike.
So, there was a level in Super Talking Time Brothers 2 that used that music, and it's like I started that level up, and it immediately brought back all those really horrible memories of dying in the caves because I didn't find any good items.